Plus, a doctor who can literally feel your pain.
As he's dying, I have to will myself to breathe.
Coming up next. Today, a medical mystery that blew my mind. Imagine being able to experience the physical sensations of the person next to you, even detecting their emotions, the good and the bad. I want you to meet a doctor who says he can feel his patient's pain. And before you get the wrong idea, he's a Harvard-trained neurologist. Dr. Joel Salinas is here. He's about to tell us what people in our studio are feeling right now. Are you ready to go? Okay. Yep. So when we walk by the front of the audience, they'll be cheering. I want you just to figure out what they're feeling and describe it to us.
Got it.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
All right.
Everybody! Welcome to the show. Welcome all to the show. So, thank you. Dr. Salinas has a very interesting talent, which we're going to be exploring today. So I wanted him to just get a feel for you, literally. So what are you sensing from our audience?
So you right here, I really feel a bit of kind of tension and kind of discomfort in the upper shoulders,
Yes.
kind of middle back.
That is true. It does happen a lot.
It is true.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Massage that woman's back, please. You feel it right now?
A little bit. It gets worse throughout the day, but.
Oh my goodness. I mean, these are rare sensations, but it's interesting you would pick them out of the audience. So, you know, I must say, I've always been amazed that some folks seem to have this ability. You've probably never heard of this before. We're going to talk about it today. But we're going to help everyone uncover the root of their own pain. That's the goal here. By understanding how his mind works and how many of you have this talent as well, you'll be able to figure out ways of addressing the issues in your life. So we're going to ask the question, could you have this hidden ability to feel others' pain? Take a look.
As a kid, I always had a sense there was something different about me, but I always just chalked it up to being that weird kid. I did a lot of really specific things, like when I would color my letters and numbers, I would color them very specific colors. Like 1 had to be yellow, 2 had to be red, B had to be orange. And because my numbers have really clear personalities with them and colors with them, when I meet other people, I'll immediately get red too, and I get the sense that they're kind of this fierce, kind of feminine personality. It was only until my first year in medical school that I realized that there was something really, really different about me. I was doing a medical trip in India. One of my friends who has a background in brain science said, "Oh, did you all know that there are people who can literally see music and letters with colors as well?" When I took him aside and I said, you mentioned this thing about people who are seeing kind of colors and sounds and things. What's so weird about that? Everybody has that. And he just kind of looked at me and said, no. And that led me to read more up on it. And then I went on this journey to actually get studied by other neuroscientists. After having this test done where I got this label of mirror touch synesthesia, so much made sense, not just in my experience, but also in what makes me, me. But no matter how much I read into synesthesia, it couldn't have prepared me for the actual experience of seeing patients in the hospital. Seeing someone who nauseated, I would feel nauseated myself and want to throw up. I'll never forget walking into one of the trauma bay rooms and immediately feeling as though my left arm was missing from the bicep down. And the split second later, I realized that the person in front of me has had their right arm severed.
I mean, it might sound like a superpower of sorts, but I'd love to understand more about what it's like to actually live with this unique ability to appreciate other people's sensations.
Yeah, mirror touch, it's like my brain automatically categorizes whoever I'm looking at as me. Like I am them as well. Like I'm looking in a mirror. So if you have a headache, my brain makes me feel like I have a headache. If you are wearing a watch on the left wrist, I feel like I have a watch on my right wrist.
So Dr. Salinas' book, Mirror Touch, a memoir of synesthesia and the secret life of the brain. He describes walking through a hallway of a hospital where he's encountering patients that are in a lot of pain, like people who've had amputations and gunshot wounds and car accidents. You say you even felt the pain of death once.
Yeah, as a medical student, I'll never forget the first time I saw a patient die. You know, as I walk into the room, seeing the patient on the ground getting chest compressions, I feel the sensation of the floor against my back. I feel the sensation of chest compressions up against my chest. I feel as the breathing tube is being slid down his throat, I feel this sharp breathing tube being slid down my throat. And as he's dying, I feel as though all motion, all sensation kind of leaves my body, and I have to will myself to breathe.
So what do you say to people who argue that you're making this up? This can't be real.
Yeah, mirror touch and synesthesia in general is one of these areas that there's a lot of really great data on. There's genetic data, there's neuroimaging research, there's psychological research, and things like that.
So it's there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So describe what these researchers have identified. If it's that concrete of a finding, what is mirror touch synesthesia? And we have a little demonstration. It's very simple, but it'll get the point across. If you don't mind just describing what people are looking at.
So here, you can imagine the average person, when they're looking at somebody else, there's a mirror system in their brain that becomes active, trying to recreate kind of like a 3D virtual reality type of simulation of the other person's experience. But in somebody like myself who has mirror touch, that mirror system activity is through the roof. Essentially, that simulation of the other person's experience is so vivid, it's like you're literally experiencing in yourself.
My goodness. So there's the question, you know, and you're a neurologist.
That's right.
Been using this. So how have you used this talent to move from the norm to the sort of hypercharged version in your treatment of your patients?
Well, there was one patient who I was asked to see in the hospital. She had cerebral palsy and couldn't communicate. And one day she just woke up just combative. And I was asked to see her, and it was this kind of additional feeling of discomfort in my chest that I was experiencing that helped us to find that she wasn't agitated because she was angry, but because she had blood clots in her lungs.
You felt the clots?
Yeah, I think if it hadn't been for mirror touch, I don't think we would have caught that as soon as we did.
So it's a huge opportunity, both for the clinicians, but imagine even for us. So you're going to help a couple members of the audience who are having some issues address them. So we're going to start off with LJ. How are you, LJ?
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Nice to meet you.
So LJ suffers from chronic pain. And Dr. Salinas, I'm not even going to tell you much more about it because it's not a magic trick, but I want you to use your mirror touch talents to be able to figure this out.
Yeah. Yeah, with LJ, you know, I do feel that there's some discomfort, but especially kind of in this lower back area, almost like a knot that I feel that's kind of like a fist almost kind of pushing into my lower back.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, I've had several spine surgeries.
Oh, you have?
Yes.
So I know you have an unconventional way of helping people who have back pain that I want you all to hear because I think it would be benefiting a lot of people. So walk us through this example.
Yeah, so one example would be like a visualization. So to tie your pain to another sense, like a color, for example. So if you tie your pain to something like the color red, you can imagine as the pain gets worse, the red gets redder. But if you mentally begin to bring that red till it becomes pinker, the pain can actually begin to feel a little bit less.
It's a lighter color, a lesser aggressive color.
Exactly. So that mental association helps to decrease the pain just a little bit.
What are your thoughts?
Wow.
I know you just heard it for the first time.
That is the first time I've ever heard that, so I'll definitely try that. I've never heard it with color, so thanks.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
I'll try that.
All right, coming up, here's a big question. Could you have the mirror touch power to feel others' pain and not even know it? It's actually much more common than you have thought. How we can all unlock our brain's secret ability. That's next. We're back with our investigation into a medical mystery. What if a doctor could actually physically feel the pain their patients were experiencing? Neurologist Dr. Salinas can do just that. He has a condition called mirror touch synesthesia, which allows him to feel other people's emotional and physical sensations, and it may be much more common than you think. Dr. Salinas says it's a quick test. Are you ready for this test? Yes. Everyone at home, sit down for 2 seconds. That's how long it's going to take. Watch this video, okay? It's a bunch of folks playing football. Now, I want you to watch what happens. The quarterback drops back, and there's a player who's running right ahead of him. Number 55 just broke through the line. Are you watching? Are you watching? Ooh, ooh. Question is, did it make you cringe? Show of hands. You know, most of the audience, not everybody, I said maybe 3/4 of the audience put their hands up. What does that mean if you cringed?
Yeah, so that cringe is really tied to that mirror system that we all have. But some of us, that activity is just really, really high, so you feel as if it's literally happening to you. And what's interesting is that this mirror system is in everyone. Actually, synesthesia in general is something that we all have from birth, everybody. And it tends to go away at about age 2. So when we're babies, you know, we We are very in tune with the people around us, but also we even have ties of color to the size of objects and other things like that. But you still see it in a lot of people. So, for example, celebrities. Billy Joel, Lady Gaga, Pharrell, these are all people that have synesthesia.
So when Billy Joel plays music, he sees colors?
So even specific songs of his are more red, and some of them are actually more blue, and he actually describes this.
So we got some other signs you can look for. So let's walk up here. The first is you form strong associations between colors and emotions. So I mean, we have a couple colors here.
So we've all heard of the expression, you're red with anger, green with envy, or that when you're feeling down, you're feeling a little blue.
Yep.
These are expressions that we all can relate with, but in people with synesthesia, whenever they imagine someone's angry or feeling disgust, they may have a very, very specific color tied to it, and it's always the same color every time.
And then you mentioned music earlier, but if you taste a food when you hear music, that seems to be one of the signs as well.
That's right. For example, when I hear Pharrell's song Happy, I taste pineapple, banana, and orange.
I mean, I can see tasting that. I don't actually taste it. And then one last little bit is you actually feel what others are feeling. So that's different from feeling bad that they're sad. You actually feel their sadness.
Right. Some people can really, really feel what somebody else is feeling. For example, when I'm feeling down, sometimes I'll just look up YouTube videos of people hugging, and it helps me feel better.
It might be good advice anyway. So what should the audience do? Someone right now who wants to be able to use this talent that they may have to help their body deal with the root of their own pain.
I think one way to start is to begin by labeling the experience. So even just like with physical pain, if let's say you have pain in your elbow, kind of thinking about it and saying, okay, that's a throbbing pain or a dull pain or a sharp pain. And that helps you begin to understand your pain, understand what's causing it, how to treat it. It can help you communicate it better to your doctor as well so they can treat it better. And it also works for labeling what emotion you're feeling.
You know what? I had no idea what to make out of you before we met, but I've really enjoyed this. This is fantastic. And I love the fact that we have a little bit of you in us.
Thank you.
Check out the website, droz.com, for full questionnaires. You can find that if you have synesthesia and not even know it. And for a lot more with Dr. Joel Salinas, I'm going to have him on my Dr. Oz podcast. Very popular podcast, thanks to you all. So check him out. You'll enjoy him there as well. Be right back.